Hey, what's up everybody? How y'all doing today? So, recently I've been getting recommended a bunch of small commentary channels on my YouTube page, and I figured I'd give it a go. Maybe will someone listen to these stories and either be interested, find them funny, learn from them, or just use them as background noise. Doesn't really matter. So, yeah, let's get started. Anywho, to give context to these stories, I worked as a delivery driver for Domino's Pizza for about 9 months, starting of May 2025 to February 2026. And of all the jobs I've had, I guess this one was the most interesting, only because it was the one where I've been more social. You know, it's a small store. You kind of have to talk to everybody, all your coworkers, and when you're out on the road, obviously, you have to communicate with the customers. So, this story takes place around October. Don't know if it was the middle and the beginning, but what I do know for sure is that this was the first delivery of my shift. And so, it's very normal. The guy orders a pizza, a soda, and some wings. Typical order. I want to say I live 40 minutes away from the actual store, so I don't really know much of the area. So I pull up to the guy's house, no red flags or nothing, just looks like a standard customer's house. And, pull up with the food, knock on the guy's door, no response. Whatever. After 15 seconds, I want to say, knock again, no response. I knock one more time, no response. So I'm like, okay. I go back into my car and call up the customer. And I want to say I did this at least 3 times until finally I'm like, okay, this guy's not picking up, he's not responding. Usually, how it goes with Domino's is that if they don't pick up or answer the phone or the door, you call up the store and have them call up the customer. And I call up my manager, like, hey, this guy's not responding. You able to communicate with them? And, you know, they call up the guy, no response. Call him up, I want to say another 2 times until finally my manager's like, yeah, honestly, just leave that food at his door. So I do, because he paid for it. And I drive back to the store. When I get to the store, however, they tell me to go back. I'm like, oh, why? What happened? He says that the customer called the store and says he doesn't trust the food. I'm like, what? What does that mean? And he says that he believes either one of the neighbors poisoned his food or that we laced it. And I'm just dumbfounded. Like, what? Like, what kind of sense would that make for a business that we're just lacing people's food, right? But I'm not making a big deal of it. Like, I don't really care. So, whatever. I pick up the guy's food, drive all the way back to the house. Again, no response. I knock again, no response. I'm like, okay, what is this guy doing? Until I hear the garage open. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess he wanted to go through the garage this time. I turn around, and as I walk to the garage, and he's walking out, this guy is shaking uncontrollably. I'm talking his legs, his arms, and his head. Not so much his head, but a lot from his arms. I'm like, okay. And I look at this guy's face, and it's one of the most bloodshot eyes I've ever seen. And the thing is, they weren't even red, like it's not like he was high off weed or nothing, but they were just bloodshot as hell, and his whole mustache and beard is just covered with white powder. So obviously I put two and two together, like, okay, this guy is obviously tweaking out some good shit. And, I walk up to him like, oh hey, I'm from Domino's, here's your order. And he immediately cuts me off before I finish the sentence, and he says, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm sorry? He's like, why are you just leaving food for the whole neighborhood to pick up? And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, sir. I called you. I rang your doorbell like 3 times and you were responding. He's just making a big fuss of how unprofessional it was that we just left the food for anyone to touch and contaminate or poison. And I'm like, I'm just standing there like, well, that's not really what happened, but I'm just letting him go off and off. He eventually calms down after a whole minute of ranting. And he's like, whatever, bro, just give me the food. And as I was handing him the order, I noticed a young girl pull up next to him. I want to say she was around 17. Obviously, I don't know for sure, but if you can imagine a 17-year-old girl, you probably know what I'm talking about, like small, short, and kind of a baby face. And she's like hugging on him real tight with some white shit all over her nose as well. And I'm just like, okay, like, like, what the hell, man? I don't really want to make a commotion out of it. I'm obviously not gonna be like, yo, who is this, and blah, blah, blah. So, I just do my job. I give him the food. He gives me back the old pizza. As I'm walking away, he's like, hold on, bro. and he hands me a $20 bill. And I'm like, oh, no, 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 you already tipped, man, don't worry. But he's like, no, bro, like, take the fucking money. And I'm like, no, sir, when you placed the order, you already gave me a $10 tip, it's fine. He's like, bro, just take the fucking money. And he's shoving the dollar bill, the $20 in my face. And I'm like, I don't even say nothing, I just grab it and go. I'm like, okay, whatever. Now, I get back to the store. The manager's like, dude, this guy's complaining that we might have stepped on his food again. I'm like, is he being for real? Like, what is he talking about? Like, he cannot be this serious. And he's like, honestly, bro, just go back and give him the 2 free pieces again. Just give it to him, bro. Because we don't want him, complaining, calling a corporate, etc., etc. So I have to drive all the way back. Again, ring his bell, no response. And at this point, I'm like, whatever, bro. I just leave the food at the door, and that's it. I go on for my day. Eventually, the manager calls up the big boss, and we kind of just, blacklist his address. I don't know what happened after. I do know, I think it was towards either December or January. Apparently, the police had to show up in that area because there was like a huge problem concerning drugs. And I think it's pretty safe to say, obviously, that was his doing. So, I guess you gotta just be careful for those kind of situations. And yeah, I don't know what happened to the guy after. Hopefully, I don't want to say he gets his life together. I just hope the girl that was with him, she was safe. Because I'm telling you, she looked young as hell. Like, she looked like she was like my cousin's age, like barely graduating high school, chilling with this fucking fiend, I just hope everything went well with her. Anyways, yeah, that's the end of that story. I have one more I want to share. This one for sure was around December. I do remember because it was snowing. We're very busy around December. Nobody wants to, get pizza when it's fucking snowing and the roads are shit, black ice, everything. And I have a shitty car, I can't lie. Like, I'm surprised I even managed to work this long with it. So, I get a delivery for about 5 pizzas, and it's a really shitty apartment. Not to disrespect, obviously, but you can tell it's kind of like a low-income neighborhood, I want to say. So, I deliver the 5 pizzas, I pull up to the apartment, and I'm knocking on this door. Well, no, the apartment is like we have to buzz in. So, I'm buzzing on the door for about, I want to say, a minute, no response. And it's freezing cold. I think it was about 5 degrees around this time. So I'm like, fuck this, bro. I'm not trying to wait all this time outside. So I call up the customer. I'm in my car chilling. Again, no responses, the typical shenanigans. And eventually I call up the manager. They don't pick up either. So he's like, honestly, bro, just take the pieces back and just come back to the store. And I couldn't, give him the pieces. Even though they paid for them, I'm locked outside. I can't just get into the apartments. So I drive back to the store. As I'm driving back, my manager hits me up while I'm driving. He's like, yo, the customer picked up. You have to turn back. Mind you, this was around a 15-minute drive. And I'm literally almost outside the store. So I'm like, god damn it, bro. And, whatever. I drive all the way back. And they're not responding again. And I called the manager yo, this guy isn't responding, what am I supposed to do? And they're like, are you able to, in any way, shape, or form, drop off the pizzas? And explain to them, I literally can't. I'm locked from the outside. There's no way to get in. So, they're like, alright, just come back then. As I'm going back in the car, I turn it on, I get a call from the customer. Oh shit. Alright, ignore that part. I get a call from the customer, and they're like, oh, I'm sorry, you can pull up again. I'm like, okay, whatever. I enter the building, they finally buzz me in. I walk up the stairs, I knock on the door, it takes about 20 seconds to open it, and to my surprise, it's 4 kids running around the room, and just a big old pregnant lady. And she's like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm pregnant with twins. It's very hard, I'm by myself, etc. And I'm just like, bro, you're telling me you got 4 kids with you, and you have 2 more on the way? And listen, I'm not one to say, how many kids a person has. But, you already have 4 kids, and you're pregnant with another 2? What are you doing, Again, not my place to judge, but, I feel at some point, bro, when is it enough, You just gotta stop creeping them little dudes out. But you know what? I don't say anything. I'm like, here's your food, it's fine, it's understandable. I deliver the pizza. It's just like, oh, wait. Actually, I forgot to order a soda with this order. Do you have any with you? I'm like, oh, no, I'm sorry, ma'am. I don't just carry drinks in the car, it's not really safe, it could either freeze up or warm up in the car. Obviously, that's bad. And she's like, "Oh, are you able to, quickly drive back to the store and give me a soda?" I'm like, "Oh, that's not really how it works, It'd have to be a whole other order for you to place." But she's like, "Please, like, I can't really afford the food, like, or I can't really afford the drink, I could barely afford the pizza." I'm like, "I understand, like, like, times are tough, but I can't just, like, first of all, I can't just drive all the way back just to pick up a soda, you know, on a different order that you haven't even placed. And, like, if you're not gonna pay for it, who is? Like, I'm not gonna pay out it from my own pocket." Like, I would say I'm a nice person, but, like, it's kind of a lot, to ask for a driver. And after a minute of just, just a little bit of going back and forth, she's like, "Okay, it's fine, I understand. I felt bad, but what are you gonna do, right? It's not really much you can do at that point." So, that's it. Kind of just drive back to the store, explain what happened to the manager, and he's like, "Honestly, bro, you could have just told me, you could just called me up, we could have just covered it." I'm like, "Yeah, but like, usually we don't do that kind of stuff, so it's whatever." He said, it's fine. Just next time, if that happens again, just call us up." So yeah, it's kind of the end of that story. I guess I'll give one more story. So, although this isn't really much of a story, it's more like an experience with this coworker. Out of respect of his privacy, I'm not gonna use his real name, so we're just gonna call him Mark. Now, Mark is how do I say this? Mark is kind of a chud, and I don't really like calling people chud. That's kind of disrespectful. Like, we all know what a chud is. Like, you don't want to be ever called that. However, this guy, bro, like, if you all seen, like, how do I describe it? You all know, like, those big fat sweaty nerds, with the glasses, the neck beards and all that. This was literally him, bro. And the reason why he's a chud is because he does not know how to socialize at all. He's always screaming at the customers, always yelling at our other coworkers. He just never wants to do anything. And the thing is, right? It's fine if you're not really used to socializing, etc. Like, it's fine. However, this guy, like, if you're bad at socializing, you don't get the right to be an asshole. You know what I mean? Like, you don't get to just yell at people, see when they're doing a shit job, or, especially at the customers, bro. You don't ever do that shit. That's just bad practice. Anywho, yeah, this is just the kind of guy Mark was. And the reason why I'm telling the story is because this new guy comes up, right? He's pretty chill, Obviously, this is his first time working at a restaurant, so he's new. And a customer pulls up, and he has to go to the register, right? He's never used the register, so, we're trying to help him out. God damn, bro, I'm just getting shit on. Anyways, let me just finish the story. So yeah, the coworker, we're gonna call him Jose. He goes up to the customer, and he tries to help him out, but he doesn't really know what he's doing. But Mark is there, so he's like, "Hey, yo, Mark, you think you can help me out real quick?" He's like, "Oh, what do you want?" He's like, "Oh, well, this guy's ordering. I don't really know how to use the register. Like what buttons to press." And literally, right, a second later, this dude Mark just starts spazzing out crazy. He's like, "Oh, this is what's wrong with your generation, bro. You guys don't know how to do anything right, Like, oh, we have to do everything for you guys. Like, you guys don't know how to do anything right by yourselves." And mind you, he is yelling at the new guy in front of a customer. Like, the guy's just standing there like, "Damn, like, what the fuck?" Like, and he's just going on and on how like, Mark has to do everything around the store because no one knows how to do shit. And the manager's like, "Yo, like, Mark, like, you need to relax, bro." He's like, "No, bro, I'm not gonna fucking relax because I'm always the one getting put up with this shit. I always have to do everything around here." And eventually I'm like, "Okay, man, it's fine. You should go take a break." And this dude, like, he starts huffing and puffing like a fucking cartoon character and just goes in the back of the store. And I'm like, "Okay, whatever." So I'll help out the customer, because I'm like, "Oh, hey, this guy's new, don't mind him. Like, I can take your order." And, I take his order. The coworker's like, "Oh, thanks, bro, I really appreciate it." After I show him what buttons to press for next time, I go up to the manager like, "Damn, bro, like, this dude Mark's always crashing out." Like, "Yeah, bro, I'll need you to go check on him for me." So, I go to the back to check on him. This dude is just sitting in the fucking corner, watching some goddamn My Little Pony. I'm like, "Bro, like, mind you, this guy, I think Mark, it was like 28. He wasn't old, but he looked like he was 40. And what's funny is that he's talking about our generation, being bad and shit. Like, bro, like, you're not even that far off, bro. Like, you're damn near, like you're basically a year off from our generation. Like, so really just shit talking to yourself. And I don't even know why he's going off about, like, us doing nothing when this guy, right? He's supposed to be a cook. He never cooks. All he does is tend the register and cut the pizzas, and he can't even do that right. He's always crashing out. One time, he cut a pizza, right? It was a busy day, and he's taking the pizzas out the oven, he's slicing them, but the thing is, this specific order, the customer didn't want it sliced, so he looks at the receipt, sees that it wasn't sliced, and starts fucking crying. He starts going off about how his life is too hard. He's always fucking up, and like we're always putting too much pressure on him. And this is off one pizza, bro. No one even told him anything, and he's just crashing out over this small little like minuscule mistake that wasn't even that crazy, you know, because the customer didn't even mind. Like when he was finished, the customer felt bad. He was like, "Hey man, like I'm sorry that like, your coworker kind of like freaked out. Like I don't think it was that big a deal." And we're like, yeah, he kind of just does it a lot, but it's fine. Honestly, looking back now, I'm definitely sure this guy was on the spectrum. I'm not even trying to be rude. Like, you shouldn't assume a person has like a mental deficiency, but this guy, bro, in the big 2026, still wearing a mask, still watching My Little Pony, in his big old age, a bunch of pinups of like some, I don't want to say like childish shit, but he had like a bunch of like Amazing World of Gumball pinups on his backpack. Some other like little kids, not really little kid stuff, but you know what I mean, like stuff that really isn't for adults. And it's fine if you have all that stuff, but I just feel like yeah, like I said, like Mark, he's just a special dude is all. I don't blame him for him acting controllably half the time, but if you're gonna be an asshole about this sort of stuff, you can't be just like looking like this, full on neck beard, fucking, he looked like he was 300 pounds. I'm gonna keep it a bug. Like, he would eat a lot of the pizza at the store, but that's just how it be sometimes. Anywho, I think that's about it. I have some more stories I want to tell, but I think this is kind of a long video already. So yeah, I think I'm gonna just stop it here. Anyways, thank you for listening. If you found this video enjoyable, make sure to like and subscribe, comment down below if this new Mark was a chud, and I'll catch you all next time.